This is Montgomery Mosaic on 1450 WOL, WPRS HD2, and worldwide on WOLDCnews.com. Montgomery Mosaic features topics of interest to Montgomery County residents, businesses, and visitors. Here now are your hosts, Deborah Milo and Ron Thompson.
Good morning, Ron. Great to see you. Today we have another special guest, Montgomery County Council President Nancy Navarro. Good morning, Ms. Navarro, and welcome to Montgomery Mosaic.
Good morning. Thank you so much for the invitation.
I understand you'll soon be completing your year as president of the Montgomery County Council. Ron and I want to talk a little bit with you today about some of your highlights, successes, and accomplishments.
Absolutely. Glad to do so. Well, it's been an extraordinary year. I think it's been a positive year for Montgomery County. As everybody probably knows, we have had to weather some very difficult years. The last 3 years had to close a $2.5 billion gap, and things have gotten a lot better. I think that a lot of the decisions that were made were important decisions that had to do with fiscal restructuring and also a lot of economic development strategies that we are focusing on. So the good news for Montgomery County residents is that I think our economy and our outlook is strong, but obviously we still have a lot of work to do in a county that has changed dramatically in the last 30 years or so.
As a co-sponsor of a bill to raise the county minimum wage, tell us about the proposal. What are the benefits of a regional approach to this issue?
Sure. Right now there is a bill that has been introduced. Councilmember Mark Elrich is the sponsor, and Councilmember Irvin and myself co-sponsors, to raise the minimum wage here in Montgomery County in a 3-year phase-in that would land us to a $11.50 mark. So every year we'll go up $1.50 until we reach that $11.50 mark. We are doing this in collaboration with Prince George's County as well as the District of Columbia. And the importance of the regional approach is that obviously we want to stand together. This is a metropolitan region, Washington metropolitan region. We understand the cost of living is higher here than in other areas, but we don't want to place any jurisdiction at an economic disadvantage. That's why it was important to go in together. It is my hope that my colleagues support this approach. The state has signaled that they're interested in looking at this particular issue of raising the minimum wage, but we don't have any assurances that they're actually going to do this next session. I think it's important for Montgomery County and Prince George's County, being the largest counties in the state of Maryland, to take the leadership to signal this and to once and for all take care of this very important issue, which is a national actual issue here in this region.
I understand that you're drafting some legislation that's going to require county contractors to provide affordable health care to their employees, and we all know that that's been a very much a hot topic. Ron, I know you've been hearing a lot about that too. Can you talk a little bit about why this is necessary?
I think it's necessary because we need to have parity here. I mean, Montgomery County government provides great benefits to its employees, but we also have a lot of contracted work, and I think it's very important that those contractors provide access to affordable health care to their employees. And so we need to require that, and we're going to do that by amending the living wage law. We will also, I plan to introduce a bill that would give preference to those contractors that provide this access to affordable health care. So in essence, you're not affecting the small businesses. You're not in any way putting, a particular burden on the business community. What we're doing is saying, we as a Montgomery County, as the contractor, want to make sure that you provide this, and if we need to absorb that cost, then we will. But it's an important topic, and I know it's a topic of national importance as well.
In case you just tuned in, you're listening to Montgomery Mosaic with Deborah Milo and Ron Thompson. We are talking with Montgomery County President Nancy Navarro. As a council member, you represent the Wheaton area where a major redevelopment project is planned. Let's talk about the project and the future of Wheaton.
The future of Wheaton is bright. Right now, we actually a couple of weeks ago I joined the county executive and we cut the ribbon on this new remodeled urban Safeway right next to the metro station with an extraordinary residential component right on top of it. It's real signature. We've also just we appropriated this year $68 million in our construction budget to spark the revitalization of Wheaton, and that involves the downtown core, where we would have a signature government building, park and planning, as well as some other possible departments moving there, an active park area that will be obviously programmable where families can go, and there could be concerts, there could be a lot of activity. And this is just the beginning, and this, of course, is always mixed use, so you'll have some residential components to that building. But we're also very, I think, focused on ensuring that other things, such as the construction of a library, community center combination, as well as the total, complete modernization of the Wheaton High School Edison combination, that moves forward. It's a great time for that part of the county, and my philosophy has always been that we cannot leave any part of the county untapped. Every area of our county deserves to have amenities, and it deserves to have enhancements. So we're very excited about Wheaton, and I think that this is a really asset for those residents who are there, and hopefully those, you know, not only millennials, but also older people that are thinking about retiring and want to live near transit, they can also consider coming to Wheaton.
So basically what I'm hearing her say is that maybe, Ron, we need to consider moving to Wheaton.
There you go.
Absolutely.
Last year, your colleagues on the council approved your legislation to provide assistance for small businesses which are pretty much adversely impacted by redevelopment. What kind of assistance will be offered?
Thank you for that question. It actually piggybacks on my conversation, my comments that I just made about Wheaton. This really grew out of this. There were a lot of community organizations and community groups that were concerned about the small businesses that have called Wheaton home for such a long time. Businesses that give Wheaton a real sense of place, a personality, if you will. And so in many conversations with those small businesses, it was clear that they needed two things: access to capital and access to technical assistance in order to survive through and expand and be successful through this revitalization project. So my bill would provide those two things. It would provide access to capital and access to technical assistance to navigate through this this particular revitalization project. And as well, of course, it applies to the whole county. If there's any other area of the county where we are initiating a redevelopment, revitalization effort, then that same bill, that same program can assist those small businesses that qualify.
We are talking with Montgomery County President Nancy Navarro on Montgomery Mosaic, along with Deborah Milo. I'm Ron Thompson. You are also a member of the Council's Health and Human Services Committee. What types of programs is the committee supporting for next year's operating budget, and what is being done to help the county's most vulnerable residents?
Well, you know, in Montgomery County, we have a real strong tradition of always strengthening our safety net. I always say that, for me, what really prompted me to run for office is that I believe that we need to invest in our economic development so we can have the resources to invest in our social infrastructure. In Montgomery County, we have an amazing department, Health and Human Services, that provides services that range from emergency assistance to assistance for homeless individuals, to support for child care providers. I mean, it just runs the gamut. We have established amazing programs like Linkages to Learning, which are placed in schools, wellness centers, which are placed in schools. So I have to say that even through these difficult economic times, both the executive and then the council work together to not only restore, but also expand that safety net. Because, you know, something that people don't realize is that a lot of folks who are middle-class people, you know, going through this recession, if your husband or your wife, or if you lost your job, you're done. So it's very important that we've had these resources, because the need has grown exponentially in Montgomery County, and also we have this reputation that here everybody's just very wealthy and everybody's doing really well. Well, you know, when you think about the fact that 30% of Montgomery County Public School students qualify for free and reduced meals, that's an extraordinary number. That's close to 49,000 students that qualify for free and reduced meals, which is a proxy for poverty. So we have our challenges here, but the good news is that we're always working and always prioritizing the needs of our most vulnerable.
The council recently approved a resolution which you sponsored, creating a right to vote task force. What's the purpose of the task force, and what do you hope that this task force will accomplish?
Well, the purpose of the task force, and the reason why I decided to introduce this resolution, is because we can never rest in our laurels. We can never just assume that everything will be okay. We have seen what has occurred around the country in states where now it's being made a lot more difficult for people to come out to vote, and it's disproportionately affecting low-income communities and communities of color. Here in Montgomery County, we have an extraordinary tradition of inclusion, and the state has done a lot of wonderful things, but I feel like we need to constantly monitor and constantly improve, especially now with our early voting sites, and we were able to add additional early voting sites. We need to make sure, for example, that they are accessible by public transportation, because, again, our low-income communities and communities of color many times rely on that type of transportation to vote. So the purpose of this task force is to look at those discrete issues and to ensure that if there are places where we can improve, that we do so.
Council President Navarro, Montgomery County recently received confirmation from the bond rating agencies that the county's coveted AAA bonding rating has been retained. Now, why is this important?
It's basically our credit rating. Like everybody always usually has to check their credit report to see, if you're going to borrow money, if it's going to be at a lower interest rate or not. It's the same thing for our jurisdiction. There are only about 17 counties throughout the country that continue to retain this AAA bond rating, which is the very top one from the 3 rating agencies. That allows us to, number one, borrow money at a lower interest rate to do our construction, et cetera, and to refinance whatever debt we may have had already. So it's very important for taxpayers because it means that you're getting a better deal for your hard-earned dollar, and it allows us, again, to address the growing needs around facilities and around construction and things of that nature. It also is a very important message that is sent to the county that our fiscal health is good. Our unemployment rate is the lowest in the region. Even though we've gone through these difficult times, this particular rating just confirms that we have done the right thing. So the executive and the council have held hands throughout this difficult time, and I think this is just an affirmation and validation of the great work that took place.
Congratulations, by the way, on being named one of the area's most powerful women. You gotta like that, okay? That's incredible. By Washingtonian Magazine. Tell me a little bit about what this recognition means to you.
Wow, it means a lot, and my husband makes fun of me every day for that. But it means a lot. I mean, it's a real honor, and it's obviously I feel really humble about it. I mean, I didn't set to run for office and seek this position in order to receive such a designation. But I think maybe it just recognizes that, it's interesting. Even in Montgomery County, in a county that is so, progressive, and we've, really pride ourselves. The reality is that we only have 2 Latino elected officials in the whole entire county. The reality is that we still don't even have an African-American senator ever that has been elected and sent from Montgomery County, in a county that is now a majority of color. And, it has not been an easy road for me. Running for office and sort of, trying to open that path. And so I see it as that type of recognition that, sometimes somebody has to be the first and you just do it and it's harder, but it's worth it because you are, as I said, opening that path for future generations. So for me, it's all about supporting our young people of color who may want to aspire to run for office, because it is absolutely critical that our leadership reflect our communities. So to me, it was a real honor, and I'll try to milk it as much as I can at home, at least. We'll see.
That's right. Good for you. Good for you.
Welcome to Montgomery Mosaic. I'm Ron Thompson, along with Deborah Milo. We are talking with Montgomery County Council President, Nancy Navarro. The council has approved more updated master plans during your term as council president than any other term in recent memory. Is this important for economic development?
It's the key to economic development. The council has a distinct jurisdiction over land use, and it's been really important. And it's been important for, in my opinion, 2 main reasons. Number one, these master plans have created a biotech life science hub here in our county. We are capitalizing on the federal presence of the FDA, of National Cancer Institute, of so many incredible NIH, so many incredible federal agencies. So we have created a hub, which is really great, especially for our communities, the African American community, the Latino community, because, you know, young people should be looking at these fields. Right now, there are about 19,000 jobs available for cybersecurity that cannot be filled here in Maryland.
Wait, say that again.
Right. 19,000 jobs in cybersecurity that cannot be filled. And so this all depends on our young people, especially young people of color, which become the majority in terms of numbers, to really explore these fields. This is where the future lies, and Montgomery County will be that hub. We are creating the epicenter for that. So these master plans have allowed that. The other thing that has allowed, which I'm very proud to say, is that, again, it has not left any part of the county untapped. So when we talk about Wheaton, when we talk about Glenmont, when we talk about the White Oak Fairland area, these are master plans that will revitalize those areas that have such a need for amenities, such, you know, need for infrastructure, but we have not realized that for those areas of the county, and it takes a little time. So I'm proud. I mean, it's been hard work, especially for our committee that deals with planning and economic development and for the council, but it's worth it, and I think, again, especially when it comes to our communities of color, this will be a direct enhancement and will provide job opportunities for those areas of the county where we tend to live. So it's a great thing, and again, I am very bold about encouraging our young people to explore those STEM careers, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. That is where the future lies, and it pays very well.
It pays very, very well. Not only that, that's why she's the most powerful woman, according to Washingtonian Magazine. By the way, did I say that already?
And there's 19,000 jobs out there, by the way. 19,000 jobs out there.
Cybersecurity.
Absolutely, absolutely. Can you tell us about what's in the works for the Colesville area along New Hampshire Avenue in Silver Spring?
Sure. So we are going to be working through our master plan for the Fairland White Oak area, and that is capitalizing on the presence of FDA, and it will hopefully be able to realize a village of sorts that will be residential and commercial and have restaurants and things like that. The Colesville area is not technically included in that particular master plan. So there were two things that I proposed, I think, that will make a big difference to that area. Number one is lighting throughout New Hampshire Avenue, especially in the area that is south of Randolph Road in New Hampshire. That area is pitch dark, and I've seen, especially now that it's getting darker, I see people waiting for buses in pitch dark conditions. So that is, we were able to appropriate money. I made that proposal. My colleagues approved it. We're also going through a process of facade development, facade improvement of those strip malls that line that area, just to give it a little bit of an enhancement again. You know, we need to feel proud of where we live, and I think it is the role of local government to facilitate that. So those are two things that I think will also complement the White Oak Fairland Master Plan.
You coined the phrase, One Montgomery. What does that mean?
Oh, yes. After much deliberation and after much analysis, I concluded that in Montgomery County, we really do need to aspire to adopt that phrase. You cannot have situations where in one classroom you may have a student who is, eating 3 hot meals a day, who has parents that can take that student to vacations, who can, hire tutors, and then sit next to a student who may be about to be homeless, who may not have a hot meal in the evening. These are not made-up stories. These are real issues that we're facing in Montgomery County. And for me, I think that One Montgomery means that we don't leave anybody behind, that we acknowledge that we have so many resources, and that, for areas that are more affluent, if we don't take care of those areas where we have some of these challenges eventually, we will all be affected. So that is the premise, and the idea is that everybody should have an equal opportunity to success, and everybody should have access to opportunities. So I think where you see that most reflected is in our school system, where you still have a persistent academic achievement gap, where now it has reached that point where it is majority of color. This year, for the first time ever, incoming kindergartners, Latino incoming kindergartners surpass white kindergartners. This is a trend. And again, talking about those STEM careers and those 19,000 jobs, if we don't educate all of these children, our children of color, if we don't educate them at high levels, this will be a socioeconomic challenge for our country. It is the socioeconomic imperative of our times. It's not just a civil rights issue. It's a socioeconomic issue.
This next question kind of reverts back to the question we were talking about earlier about your magazine, in Washingtonian Magazine. You're the first Latino woman serving in the county council. And now, I know we've talked about this before in different venues, and I know you have. And you often speak about the importance of having elected officials and decision makers being reflective of the communities they serve. Talk a little more in depth about why that's important, especially for young girls.
Absolutely. I happen to, I think, also reflect a trend in this country. Yes, I became Latino when I came to this country because, for a long time I just identified myself as Venezuelan. My family, when I look back now and think about it, is obviously very mixed. We have everything. And Venezuela being a Caribbean country, and the Caribbean being an area of such different cultures coming together. My husband's from Haiti. So I really do come to this with a perspective that is extraordinarily multicultural, multi-ethnic, et cetera. And what I see is that, especially, when I was interested in running, for office, when that opportunity came up, we still had just pockets, if you will, of emerging communities throughout the county. Now it's become, as we said before, the majority. So how can you think and how can you believe that it is appropriate in a county like this that will continue to grow in terms of those communities, not to have leaders who reflect those communities, who understand the distinct challenges, issues, potential opportunities of such communities, who can lend a voice to that community? We need to do a better job. And I think for, young girls, it is very true that when the studies have been, done, boys, if you say, would you like to run for office? And they say yes, and then they ask questions. For girls, it's kind of like, I don't know, and I have all these questions, and then maybe you say yes. Right. We have got to do a better job at that, and I think it starts with obviously having role models and making sure that you groom and that you give back and you provide access. Because politics, unfortunately, it's all about the competition, and people don't like to share as much. I think that for me, that's my number one priority, is to share as much as I can and to provide access to our communities as much as possible.
This is Montgomery Mosaic. We are talking with Montgomery County Council President Nancy Navarro. I am Ron Thompson, along with Deborah Milo. And since you've been a member of the Board of Education and now the Council, you have championed a variety of initiatives to ensure that minority groups are part of the decision-making process. You've talked about that. Let's talk about some of these initiatives and what can residents do to get more involved in the process.
Sure. There is no doubt that there's quite a bit of apathy, I think, in our communities when it comes to civic participation and also, political participation, if you will. And unfortunately, that creates a self-fulfilling prophecy where then we don't see our issues addressed the way they should be. Disparities that exist have existed for a very long time. And I came to the conclusion that the reason why they've existed and continue to persist, it's again because we don't have our communities as engaged and as active as they should be. Can you imagine? We have the numbers now. So can you imagine if our communities decided, you know what, no, I am going to attend each of those PTA meetings. I am going to go to all these civic associations. I'm going to write testimony, show up at every single, hearing because my voice is important. I'm going to talk to my neighbors, et cetera. It would make a huge difference because when it comes time to elect people, that's what they're going to look at. And so it is critical that our communities connect those dots. And because I do represent Wheaton, which is the epicenter of the Latino community, my office we launched a Latino Civic Project to first build the knowledge base. Why is it important? And then provide the tools so that people can participate. And so I think shows like these are really critical as well, because it does provide an opportunity for people to hear what's happening and understand why it affects you personally. It does every single thing. If you send your child to school every day, then guess what? Civic participation in politics affects you. If you, drive the roads every single day, you can have a say in all of these things. So we just need to continue to connect those dots for our communities and provide the tools, because I know we're not shy when the time comes. So that's the effort right there, and it's been very successful.
Thank you so much for saying that, because that's encouraging. These programs are very important, to say the least. In 2011, President Obama nominated you to the White House Initiative on Educational Excellence for Hispanics. Talk a little Talk a little about what your role is there.
My role is really to just provide a local perspective in an area of the country that is growing. It's called the triple-digit growth, Maryland, in terms of Latino community growth. Obviously, there are other states like California and New Mexico or Nevada who have grown, who have traditional history of having a Latino community. But this is an area here where the growth has been exponential in the last 30 years. So my role is to provide that perspective and to really focus on the most important educational investment ever, which in my opinion is early childhood. That's where we need to invest. We need to make sure that the academic achievement gap is not present when children enter kindergarten. So to me, it's all about early childhood investment and also, again, representing the state of Maryland as a whole in terms of how to project these policies forward that can have a positive impact in educational attainment.
Okay. Right. Well, Ron, this has been another great program. We want to thank County Council President Navarro for sharing her story with us today on Montgomery Mosaic. Tune in again next month for another exciting guest at this same time on 1415 WOL, WPRS HD2, and worldwide on WLDCnews.com.
You've been listening to Montgomery Mosaic, featuring topics of interest to Montgomery County residents, businesses, and visitors. For more information or a copy of the show, email public information at montgomerycountymd.gov or call 240-777-6507. Be sure to tune in at this time every month on the third Wednesday for Montgomery Mosaic on 1450 WOL, WPRS HD2, and worldwide at WOLDCnews.com.
1450 WOL.